Let's talk about US utility patents. What you're seeing here is the first page of a patent. You may not recognize it as anything in particular, but this is actually an image of a product that is sold in grocery stores under the trademark name Uncrustables. So I just thought I'd start off by showing you that a patent does not always have to be high-tech innovation. It can include basic things that you eat. It can include bathroom items, etc. Now, the first page has a lot of detail on it, abstract title, etc. We're not going to get into all that. I just thought I'd show you. Now, you might be wondering why you would get a patent. The biggest reason is that it gives you a competitive advantage. It is the most exclusive kind of intellectual property right. It gives you the right to exclude others from making, selling, using, offering to sell, or even importing your invention. Now, unlike other kinds of IP, you can even exclude independent inventors. So this is a big difference from trade secrets, which does not bar independent inventors. So even someone who thought they came up with the idea on their own, they didn't try to take it from you, you can still sue them and bar them from using what they thought they came up with. Along the same lines, someone could be liable to you or could be excluded from using your patent even if they don't know about the patent. Now, patents do have the most exclusive rights of all IP, but they tend to be the shortest. So the image of limited time is meant to remind you that these are in fact very limited. It's constitutionally required that they're limited, as with copyrights, but patents are actually even shorter than that. How short? Well, it's less than 20 years. If you thought that there was a 20-year term, there is something in the patent statute about 20 years, but it's really saying that the patent term ends 20 years after the filing date. But because there are no rights until a patent is granted, the actual patent term is actually 20 years minus the time it takes for the patent application to be evaluated, which ends up being about 3 years. So on average, it's about 17 years, but it really all depends on how long it takes to review the patent. Now, let's talk a little bit more about how you get the patent and those exclusive patent rights. The most important thing is to apply. And applying for a patent will get you rights, assuming it's granted, in the nation granting the patent. Now, since we're talking about the US, we are going to talk about applying to the USPTO and establishing two things. In particular, you want to establish the invention itself is patentable. That is patentable subject matter, new, useful, and non-obvious. In addition, you cannot get a patent unless the application satisfies certain requirements. Basically, these application requirements are intended to ensure you disclose enough so that it makes sense for a patent to be granted and society have to be imposed with this exclusive limit, which inevitably drives up prices because the patent owner has a right to exclude all others. So we don't want to give out patents for anything. We only want to give out patents where the inventor is adequately disclosing what they invented and enabling others to be able to make that invention, at least others who are similarly technically qualified. Now let's talk a little bit more about the details of getting a patent. The first is that the process is ex parte. In other words, it's just between the applicant and the patent office. There are no third parties that can object to a patent application in the US. There are some other countries that allow this, and if you're familiar with US trademark law, that may not seem right, but it is in fact a difference between US trademark and patent applications. So for trademarks, parties can object to our third parties, but not so for US patents. Now, the process of getting a patent is called patent prosecution. That's the back and forth exchange between the applicant and the patent office. Patent prosecution history is the term that refers to the paper record. So oftentimes, the inventor doesn't get a patent issued based on their initial filing. Oftentimes, the patent office will find one or more reasons why they think the patent should not be granted, and they'll issue an office action saying why. So usually the applicant will respond and try to defend and say why it's entitled, sometimes even amending the application. So that whole process is called patent prosecution history. History is like the record. Now, speaking of records, there is a public record associated with patents. So basically, patents are not secret, and even applications are all published after 18 months from filing. So not upon filing, but after 18 months, they're published and everyone can see what you've tried to obtain. Some issued patents are similarly public. So both of these issues mean that it is impossible to have both a trade secret and a patent on the same thing because you can't keep something secret if it's also published. Now, one of the trickiest things about patents to most people are the patent claims. So every patent has at least one claim, and the claim is telling you what the scope of invention is, the rights. So basically, a patent claim is kind of like a deed to land. It tells you the boundaries of the invention. Officially, this is sometimes called the patented invention, each individual claim. Now, you may be wondering why there's an image of a building and the Frosted Flakes box. Well, the reason why is because I think of a patent as kind of like a condominium or apartment building, where overall the patent is the building, but each building has individual units. So the units can be individually sold, licensed, etc., just like individual claims can be violated. So when you have units in a building, they're all kind of related. That's the same thing with the claims in a patent. They're all kind of related, but each one can be violated on its own. Now that also has a tie to the cereal box, in that a product may have multiple trademarks, each one of which could be individually violated. So Kellogg's, Frosted Flakes, the Tiger, each one of them on its own is a valuable thing that you could use against others. So too, each patent claim stands alone. You only need to violate one to violate a patent. If you violate more, it probably just means you owe more damages, but each one is valuable on its own, and that's some basics about patents.